4 best-of-3s remain in this group. All the Geralt matches to play after this actually could be really decisive as to how this group turns out. Going to be very, very interesting as we do start this one with our blue Protoss player in the top left-hand side of the map, representing Twisted Minds, of course. He has been maybe not having the best day today. It is Classic. He did beat Young, but he lost to Nightman, and what felt like a very winnable series for him as well. PvPs earlier really were quite crazy if you weren't around for them. Definitely worth going back to check out again, because, yeah, they're actually a lot of fun. It's not often I would, it's not often that I would recommend necessarily checking out a PvP, but today's PvPs were pretty heckin' wild, so if there ever was a day to check out the PvPs, today might just be it. Alright. So, we take a excuse me, moment or two to get established on Equilibrium as the opening map. This is oftentimes seen as a very Protoss map, so HeroMarine not vetoing this. The reason being is obviously you can play with the gold bases of Protoss, and it's just very large. It's pretty defendable across a good amount of bases too. Protoss players generally love this map in PvT. Obviously PvZ, it's very much PvZ is very much so a Zerg map. Same for CVT. You don't really see Terrans playing on this map, especially in a best of 3, so I'm kind of intrigued what the idea is here from HeroMarine. Wonder what he likes about it, or if just maybe metas have changed, or maybe he feels like Classic's going to do something on this map that then he can take advantage of. Currently opening with a reactor first into a factory, so no units initially. It is a big map, unlikely to come across any pressure early while going for this reactor first that he then can't deal with, just because, again, the map is a little bit larger than usual, so that alone is already a pretty reasonable factor. You're going to see that probe giving up position and just going to be falling back for the moment. Again, a couple of Reapers on the way out here from HeroMarine. Getting those on the go. As the SCV of HeroMarine comes back from its scout across the map, there is indeed a Nexus down from Classic. That's going to be a lot of the information you're looking for there. So that's always good to know about right from the get-go. See that, know about that is a major, major plus. Oh, that's what the plan is. We're going to put a CC down on the gold bases HeroMarine. That's a little bit of a different one. First, Reaper's a scout for any nearby proxies that might cause him trouble for the little bit of greed he's about to play out for the moment. So yeah, I'm going to get that on the go. Again, just something a little bit different here. Get us all started up. The Reapers and the Hellion will then be joined by 2 more Reapers again, so it's actually going to be a lot of units in these early stages to try and, again, push through for some damage. Waiting to see what will overall come of this. Just going to jump on these first Adepts, and this is where you have to be a little bit careful. It's Classic. Not being too far forward with your units and getting outnumbered by those early Terran forces. At the same time, obviously, HeroMarine is using this as a way to push Classic back and to keep him away from doing anything about the gold, which Classic currently does not know about, so it definitely becomes an interesting little proposition here, right, as figure out how exactly this will go down. We do have the Phoenix starting to lift up some of these units, though, and some of this harass will start to be weakened. Phoenix should be able to keep you fairly safe here as the Protoss player and should keep you in a fairly reasonable spot, all said and done. And that's obviously a pretty big net positive in general. If you can keep away from any further damage being taken, that should put you into a much better spot, as I say. Phoenix coming through, lifting up a Hellion. Now an SCV goes down. These Cyclones still coming across, and they're going to lock onto one of the Phoenix. Phoenix taking some damage. Now diving in for a couple of these SCVs. 2 SCVs killed. Still got the Raven on the way. Still got those Cyclones coming through as well. Again, Phoenix is going to be a big part of what we see in this game for the foreseeable future. As the Cyclones, though, are going to be great at defending them. It's just the Cyclones are not going to be as mobile as the Phoenix. It's going to be tough to keep up, especially when you're spreading your defense across the main base all the way to the gold. That's going to be one of HeroMarine's bigger problems. The Phoenix do escape through the top side. There's going to be Interference Matrix Producing from HeroMarine, but also Hurricane Thrusters. There's a second factory down. We're going to play mech off the gold base. And Hurricane Thruster is going to give us that Cyclone speed. So we can speed that up and get those back on the map as aggressively as possible. That will be the plan there. And Oracle comes around this top side. He's going to fly in for 4 or 5 SCVs pretty quickly. 4 so far. Looking for 5 surely. He easily should find 6. Absolutely. 6 workers go down. Some nice grabs off the Oracle. Going to turn around for number 7. Doesn't quite get there in the end. Still 2 more Cyclones and a Raven coming up. The Oracle still up around the top. And again, the Immortal about to finish the charge, and the +1 attack upgrade coming through as well. All that's still coming by. All these Cyclones building. I mean, 7 SCVs is pretty serious damage. The Phoenix may not be able to do much on the gold. High ground will save them from the Cyclone lock-ons at least. Pulling back over to that left-hand side. Again, just going to be holding back there for a couple of moments. As again, the Ravens and Cyclones and everything join together for a moment. Going to see what more can be done. Just again, going to be seeing the extra gates coming up as well. So continue to bring those out for the moment. I even have a Temple Archives already on the way, so we're already seeing Classic very much so showing very much so what he's about in this game, showing us what he wants to get done right from the get-go. I was surprised. We've already seen Classic have to play against Mech once a day as well, which is kind of funny. We saw him play Mech against Ryung. He's going to be playing against some Mech here against HeroMarine. I wonder if Classic had that lined up in his mind, that both his Terran opponents were going to try Mech, of all things. Maybe that's one of the things that, like I say, this map is not a usual pick, but maybe that's one of the reasons why HeroMarine tries to make it work on this map. It is essentially a 2-base mech all-in here from HeroMarine. This is not a macro game. He's got the gold base. He's just setting it with 3 factories of production. He is not setting up to play a longer game. He needs to kind of win with some of these early pushes. Maybe not the immediate first one, but he needs to start making some progress. He's just gone pure Cyclone Raven, and currently utilizing that in any way he can. Raven gets hit by a little cheeky feedback there. Trying to drop more water turrets down, but they're just melting to that Immortal Fire. HeroMarine is not going to progress into that 3rd base position, so no love found there for HeroMarine. Not going to get anything done at all, unfortunately. Sadly, that is just going to end up being, again, a little bit of a tough scenario on that one. Infernal Pre-Igniter coming up. A few more Cyclones on the way in. Continue to bring this through as Blink and +2 come up as well. The Oracle coming out also. Cyclones and Ravens still move around to the top side. Prism on the way. A couple extra Zealots continue by also. Cyclones are going to dive into this position. A few probes will begin to go down as well. So 3 workers already dropping down dead here. And you have the Zealots continue to chase, and those Cyclones are being pushed back. Other Cyclones coming back around. And a few more Zealots just being picked away at there, and I would say so far so good. Well, HeroMarine down by a lot of workers. He's obviously, like I said, committed to this 2-base. He is adding, well, he was committed to the 2-base. He's now adding a 3rd CC. Still trying macro, but this is going to happen as his opponent tries to take a gold. So the Protoss is going to start finding an economy that has not really been about previously. So that's going to be a pretty big positive as well. Going to be something of a plus as Classic sits in the center. Thanks, Ellie and Armory all continue to come through. We do have, again, our +2 attack and our +1 armor coming about as well. I mean, with Blink also, you really just have all the upgrades you could possibly ever want to work with here as the Protoss player. So you're just getting all of those options given to you. Good force field's going to catch a bunch of Cyclones. And anytime you're taking out army as efficiently as that, I feel like you got to be pretty happy about it. Come back around one way then the other. Still seeing Stalkers, Archons, Immortals pushing across. Tanks are set up. The Hellions are going to come through. Going to be seeing our Armory on the way as well. There is a Prism in the main base, and Zealots are already starting to shred through a whole chunk of SCVs. So HeroMarine is now going to start playing against the real powerful part of the Protoss army, which is that it's going to be able to harass and create trouble itself. And that's going to make your life a little bit more difficult here too, as we do see 11 SCVs going down, and again, it's just forcing units back, which gives the rest of this army a chance to poke forward at the front and to try and do something extra. It's just trying to do what it can there. I mean, now Stalker's just warping in as well. On top of Zealots, I mean, there's just the mobility with these, as we mentioned before, and they are picking off so many reinforcements. HeroMarine supply is just falling apart. And it feels like we're not far away from Classic, just clicking forward with the rest of this army into that gold base area. Likely just going to overwhelm. There's so many units in this main right now. There's a handful of tanks and Hellbats here. The Ravens as well, but beepling forward. Just do what we can to close the distance. The Archon Immortal will be extremely powerful here, and I'm not sure the auto turrets are necessarily going to do anything to be of aid. I think this one is going to come and be pretty much done. As GG is called, there's not much else to say about that. That very much so was convincing from Classic. I mean, obviously HeroMarine tries to play something a little bit weird and a little on the top left-hand side, not making it happen in game number 1. It's a cool idea with the gold and everything. Maybe there's some possibility. It is going to be HeroMarine. Like I said, I didn't mind the switch up and doing something different and trying, different things out. I think that's very much so an okay thing to kind of be aiming for. It obviously wasn't meant to be this time around. That's in the bottom right. He had good control of it. And I wonder if kind of playing against some mech against Ruang earlier maybe help you prep a little bit mentally for that as well, right? Definitely a possibility. It is Classic in the bottom right corner of the map. Okay, we're coming up. Simulator coming through. Couple of refineries on the way as well, so we're not going to see one gas expansion from here. HeroMarine going to be a little bit more aggressive than that double gas. Typically, obviously, bringing that fire a little bit, bringing that aggression. Seems to be the plan here for these early moments instead. As the probe goes all the way to the upper sides, moving across. And it's going to obviously scout about, and is obviously going to be able to see it's a double gas, so you get some information immediately here as Classic, so that's obviously good to see. Should be pretty happy about that, at least. Probe continues to wander around for a few moments as well, so again, just to look to see what's going on here. As we nibble up, Depot taking some damage. He sits on the other side. Factory still building as well. And Probe just getting to see everything because it's a reactor first. Same as the last game, there's not really any reason for you to be able to... well, there's not really any way for you to deny the information being gathered, right, as the Terran player. So there's a choice you make by going reactor first. You do not have an early unit, and hence this Probe can just sit here and somewhat do as it wishes in the early minutes. Probe pulling back down towards the bottom right-hand side. And again, a couple of Reapers coming up. Nexus on the way. The Adept is coming through as well. The Probe continuing out just for the moment. Probe and the Adept going to cross each other's paths. And a couple of Reapers coming out. The Hellion also, again, just going to be seen exactly as we opened in the last game as HeroMarine. So not going to switch anything up there, at least. He's very comfortable about just continuing that through in the same way. Which I think is fine. I don't think there's anything wrong with the opening. I think obviously it'll be interesting to see how he changes up beyond the first few minutes here, though. And obviously do not expect him to play mech a second time. Here on Oceanborn, the Reapers and the Hellion do not on through for on the log gains. The Adept still moving around on the other side. Cyclone about to finish. Again, Reapers and the Hellion moving out and down on the bottom as well. And just going to be seeing the single Adept continuing to chase down the Hellion, which honestly, more than anything, is going to pick up some information. See the Cyclone and a couple more Marines on the way out. The Reapers continue back towards the upper side. Need to gather for the moment, as again, Robo Facility continues through. And evac Cyclone and a couple more Marines all popping out for now. And we do see the Phoenix of Classic begin to make their way back towards the upper left-hand side of the map. Go all the way around the left as we just have our Liberator coming up. Marines come through. The Robo facility still building as well. Gateway also producing. A couple more probes coming out. It's going to lift up one SCV. Meanwhile, we do have the push from HeroMarine going to come forward and pressure a Classic who defensively is not very well set up. I'm talking about a Robo, Chrono Boost, and an Immortal right now, but that's about it for the moment. Going to go press forward here and attack on in. Battery goes down immediately, so now you don't have that to back you up either, so that's not exactly great, being without your ability to, have a, heals. Do you see the Phoenix coming back? Can we target this one down? We can. So the first Phoenix drops, saves that Cyclone low HP as well. We're going to drop back down, try and go for the second Phoenix. The Immortal being out here, though, is going to make this a little bit more difficult altogether, and the Immortal and Stalkers make sure to push this away. A couple Marines going down as we speak, and that is going to be the turnaround. That is going to be the defense. Good job in the end by our Protoss. Good job, Classic. To defense against this as we now reconsider where we sit. Reconsider what we're going to try and do next here over the next few moments. It's going to be having the Medevac trying to come back in. The Phoenix will lift up the Cyclone, and obviously from there we should be able to get pretty much everything else as well. Medevac is going to go down. Just going to see the Stalkers and the Immortal continuing about also. Here's the Cyclone sitting out the front and still got that Robo Bay coming through. The Nexus and the Observer coming in as well. Raven and 1-1 upgrades and Interference Matrix producing on through. Keep it pulling back. Stalkers and Immortals sitting on the front of the third. Just going to be having ourselves the couple of probes already dropping down also. So just going to see those beginning to drop here. Damage being done immediately. Again, we move around a little, just going to be seeing more units regathering back over on this side. Well, Classic. All said and done, he's lost 12 probes throughout this. His economy is obviously not great. Being down a few workers is absolutely going to be painful. With a few workers lost, or a few workers down, that means HeroMarine is in the economy driver's seat, and let's see if Classic can do well if HeroMarine decides to push. I mean, it should be a minute or two before HeroMarine pushes. Stim and combat, at the very least, will be finished right. But that is going to line up with one big push, and he's going to have multiple tanks for it as well. I do worry a little bit if Classic doesn't have the numbers to kind of get out in front of that and just sort of, pressure it a little. His Phoenix count is being very much so hurt throughout this. There's only one loss, but he's being kept busy enough that he's only had 3 built in total, so he's only got 2 left on the map at the moment. I really feel like those sort of situations could all, add together and maybe make this a little problematic here for Classic when HeroMarine does get his move across the map. So what can Classic do? Well, know that it's coming. I don't think you build a Stargate and a Fleet Beacon. Oh my goodness. I think that is asking to die. Hello? You crazy, Classic? Do you not want... okay, he did this against Ryong earlier, and it works very well if you get left alone to the point where you can start building carriers and get to those carriers safely. I do not see in what world HeroMarine is going to give Classic that much time, because HeroMarine is getting his stim and combat finish. He's got 1-1. There's no reason why HeroMarine wouldn't push to some extent. Classic kind of feigns aggression, so he's trying to send this idea of, hey, look, I'm out here pushing. I'm building army. I've got an army to push with. Think about that, HeroMarine. And that's meant to make HeroMarine a little bit afraid of the idea of moving out, so you can maybe get away with going into that carrier play. And for now, HeroMarine will only move forward with a handful of units that are protected by Medevac, so they can always just lift up and back away from this at any possible moment if needed. So I guess so far, so good in that regard. I guess it's maybe going to work a little. Charge about to be done, plus 1 air weapons coming through. The Zealots will continue to move around. Over to the far right-hand side. There you go. So again, just a few moments here. See a little bit of what's up, what's happening. Medevacs will load up as well. They're going to go boosting down to the bottom left-hand side. It's just going to make some progress. And you're going to see at least HeroMarine, like I say, he's not just going to sit back and do nothing. And even if we get to 2 carriers, I'm not sure 2 carriers is necessarily going to be enough to end up in a good position here, right? So, not loving it right now for Classic. Still feel like HeroMarine has a lot of opportunity to do damage before Classic is anywhere near well enough set. You can see these medevacs boosting across. Scans the main base, so he knows as well. Fleet picking, he sees it. He knows exactly what's going on. So now HeroMarine might just up the ante a little bit. He sees these units progressing over here. He can probably unload here, though, and start a fight some of the Phoenix. And as the army moves across, he's going to be able to dive into the natural, finds a battery straight away. There's nothing nearby. That's probably going to be a dead Stargate. So that's one of the carriers denied as well. That's going to heavily slow down this carrier count from getting to where it needs to be, which is, well, to as many carriers as possible ASAP. You're going to be in a much worse position for that now than you were previously. A little bit of bio getting caught as HeroMarine gets shoved away. The drop on the bottom side got away with only 1 medevac units as well. So to be fair, all my criticisms, Classic at the moment is surviving. We're continuing through with at least an opportunity. Medevac still joined up together, just going to be seeing everything else over the left-hand side. Classic continues to make some moves over here for the moment, so trying to find a little bit extra. Blink and +2 continuing up as well. More Stargates on the way out as Disruptors continue on by. Sonic comes back to the left. Bigger push from HeroMarine. I mean, again, he knows that he slowed down some of the carrier production, and he knows his opponent's trying to get into that, so he really feels that there's going to be an opportunity. The Disruptor shots are going to go towards the tanks. We drop 1 Interference Matrix, and now a Cloak comes up. We will scan against it. I mean, just so many tanks shelling away during this interesting fight with, honestly, Classic making some pretty good progress forwards. HeroMarine trying to hold out. The thing is, Classic has nothing left on the ground. He has no interceptors left. This needs to be Disruptors saving the day. The Colossus goes down. The Disruptors are forced backwards. I don't think that Disruptor is going to do anything. There's a few Zealots here, but they're not going to make the difference against this handful of Marines. That is all that is saving HeroMarine. But it's enough to take down every single carrier because he's so caught up in this fight. This Disruptor is going to land as HeroMarine was desperate to get rid of the carrier. He knows every carrier he gets rid of makes follow-up pushes so much easier for himself because there's going to be less of those tech units available. And HeroMarine, well, there's 2 more carriers showing up. He kills the super battery. He's going to fall back towards the siege tank. He might target fire down the Disruptor. He will try to. It's going to be very close. It doesn't quite drop. The interceptors go once again. HeroMarine gets rid of those with no interceptors left. We dive forward. Now it's just Zealots to try and buy time for the interceptors to rebuild. No Disruptors available. 1 Colossus is on the way over. Marines only, so maybe the Colossus has some hope, but nah, there's just no way. There's nothing to support it at all. HeroMarine is going to break through on the back of a hell of a fight. One really kind of drawn out fight as well when you really sit back and think about it. That is going to be GG's. And HeroMarine ties the hand side. It is going to be our blue Protoss player. This is Classic. As in the bottom left, our red Terran player is going to be HeroMarine. Third map of the series. We do have a probe. Just going to come out the front. Going to drop down a cheeky little gateway there. Got that on the way. And barracks coming up. The gateway coming in. No one proxying or anything for this game number 3 just yet. No immediate aggression to be shouted about. Once again, that probe comes around the top. And is just going to go scan around. So definitely wants to make sure we're not in any sort of trouble here. Go back down to the bottom left. You can see the Deeper coming down. React still building through as well. So we continue to get this all on the go for the moment. And we do have the reactor. I mean, HeroMarine has gone reactor first every game so far, so we'll just do it one more time. Not going to change anything up for the moment, at least. been consistent with the openings. This has led him into the Reactor, Reaper, and the Hellion attacks in the early stages of the game. So we'll see if, again, that's going to remain true this time around. Or if there's maybe something a little bit different planned over these few moments. Let's see what's going to happen. Probe pulls back, a couple more Marines coming about. Warp Gate is building up. Probe in the main is going to drop down a Twilight Council. And we do have the couple Marines just down the low ground trying to see what else is going on. Marines will actually start moving forward, so we're not going to be seeing those Reapers this time around. Instead, Marine production going to be a little bit of a different way of setting up. So, same idea with the Reactor first, but then going to go Marines, and then a fast Siege Tank as well, and also just no expansion. So, makes it look like previous games, but then it's anything but like the previous games. And that's going to be where HeroMarine maybe tries to catch Classic a little off guard, and maybe just catch a cheap win. Maybe not a cheap win, but a quick win. If you can just get across and Classic is not prepared for this amount of setup, or this amount of aggression this quickly, because he's expecting an expansion, could be troublesome. He does see the Marines. Again, that's not really a reason to think there's no expansion if you just continue to produce reactive Marines for the moment. Let's come over, actually going to find the Adept just sitting in the speedy zone. Adept will use that as a chance to back away for a moment, though, so I'm just going to run away from that right now. As we continue to move around, Marines do grab another little kill. Another little pick-off for the moment. A little more being done for now. As we come through again, a couple Stalkers going to get chased around. Just going to be pushing those back. The Marines getting through there. Medevac has a couple of Siege Tanks inside as well. Going to drop one, going to drop two. Actually going to be able to kill these Stalkers with the Medevac movement. SCVs are pulling with this. I mean, as they should. It's a one-base commitment. There's no expand behind this. This isn't friendly from HeroMarine. This is all about pushing. This is all about getting in for some killing damage. Let's see what he can do, as the defense is going to be double battery, so we're pretty well set up. I feel like losing those first couple of Stalkers is going to set you back a big way. You're still limited on units early game as a Protoss player. To be losing a couple like that super early is going to make your life so much more difficult. Super battery activates. It's going to be a factor as you just see our Marines and SCVs continuing up. The Liberator going to siege up as well. Now you're getting kind of pushed into a corner already as well, so this is also starting to hurt you just a little bit. It's going to start sucking very shortly. As we do have this force continuing to come around, and it's not going to be enough at all from Classic. Starting to pull the probes in, that wasn't going to work. Don't think that was going to be working out at all. And that's going to be GG's, and we are going to see HeroMarine taking the 2-1 over Classic. Once he moved away from the mech, it became